They say laughter is the best medicine, but cytarabine gives it a run for its money. This is the Illest Podcast. Hey, guys.
Hello.
This is the Illest Podcast, a comedy podcast about chronic illness.
Because who doesn't love to laugh about chronic illness?
I know Humboldt likes the other type of the chronic, the marijuana. This is a good opening joke.
Yeah, that was. This is a foreshadowing of what you have to expect.
Yeah.
Good luck. Don't click off right now, please.
My name is Keyman Harder. I'm a comedian here at Savage Henry, and this is my co-host.
My name is Aydan. I have no idea what I can put to my title that makes me sound more eligible to be on this podcast than anyone else, except I was asked first. You're welcome.
That is, well, you actually kind of didn't have the idea for this podcast per se, but you came to me with the idea of wanting to do like a variety show and like featuring people like us who have chronic illness and kind of have more of a story to tell than just, being sick and that tragedy.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between. It was my idea. So when that comes up later, just listen to this episode. Yeah, I did have the idea because I do have chronic illness. I have a couple autoimmune diseases, and humor is the only way I've been able to survive. Humor is the only way I've been able to deal with it. And I honestly, funny enough, I get a lot of flack for that. People get offended when I start making fun of my illnesses. And first of all, they're my illnesses. I can say whatever I want about them.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, but people get offended about that. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. You shouldn't be disrespectful. I'm like, first of all, I can be disrespectful about anybody, myself at the top of the list. And second of all, like, how can you tell me what I can be respectful about?
I have had
about my illness.
I've had people be like, oh, I don't know if I can laugh about that after I tell a joke. So I guess first of all, this podcast, the plan is, this is episode 0, so there's not going to be any guest this week. We're just going to be talking about our stories, but every podcast we're going to find someone else who has a story to tell about chronic illness, about disability, mental illness. We're not trying to really limit that scope down at this point, just people who have their own perspective, because we see it's so stigmatized and stuff, and it's such a thing where you have to have it be a drama or something depressing. You can't just be like, man, isn't cancer fucking weird? That's my entire thing is it was weird having cancer. My name is Keyman Harder, and I am a cancer survivor.
Yes, exactly. And so many people do think exactly what you said, that it has to be serious. And it's the same thing. I have told a joke about an illness that I have and have had people not laugh at it because I thought it was disrespectful. So yeah, absolutely. I think this is great. And I think this is something that a lot of people are going to need, and I'm really glad that we're doing it.
Yeah, and we're going to try to just bring to light a lot of the, again, the weirder side of it, the stuff that people don't feel as comfortable just talking about and bringing up. We're going to occasionally ask the questions that people don't feel comfortable asking, and the main thing is we're just going to try to make it just prove that we are all, in fact, humans.
Yes. Humans with a sense of humor, which a lot of people don't have. But we do. So
that is
why we're doing this podcast.
It's the only thing chemo didn't take from me.
Oh my God.
The only thing.
I think it probably, honestly, this sounds morbid, which is why I want to say it. I think that having all of these illnesses probably made me more funny because I had to lean into such humor, even the dark humor, to survive it all. It probably made me funnier. I was pretty funny to start with, don't get me wrong, But, you know, you had a couple autoimmune diseases and some, you know, childhood trauma, and I am a riot, you know?
Yeah, I could not be a comedian before I got my
Yeah.
diagnosis. I was not. I would have been like literally any other like straight white guy comedian, and we just didn't need any more of those.
No,
I
the
wanted
world
to be a
does not,
comedian,
yeah.
and I was like, come on, just like give me something for me to have this. And they're like, okay, cancer.
Yeah,
This is
this is a very important life lesson, people. Don't ask the universe for something, because it will give it to you, but not what you asked for.
It will give you cancer every time.
I want to be a comedian and I don't have any material. Well, here, let's almost kill you. And if you survive, you'll be really funny.
I mean, I wouldn't say really funny. I'm all right.
Yeah. I was
I've
trying to
gotten-
be nice. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Though, like, we've also been friends for quite a while. Before my diagnosis,
Yeah.
we were friends.
I did your hair.
Yeah, you were my hairdresser.
Is that how we met?
I
couldn't remember.
No, we met in line at Target when I was a cashier. Is when we
Oh.
met, and then you're like, I'm a hairdresser, and I can't recommend you to anyone as a hairdresser. No, it's true because
Well,
I've
get
never
into this,
I've
people.
never gotten a defective haircut before you. No, I got a
defective?
Yeah, no, like I got a haircut from you, and like within the first 90 days after getting that haircut, my hair fell out. Like that's fucking.
I get blamed for a lot as a hairstylist, but you know what? I'm not going to take that one on.
I still feel like you should have given me a refund for that haircut. It fell apart, like
fell
right
apart,
on my
yeah.
head. It was.
Was it really 90 days?
Yeah, no, like it was like about a week or
not
two
after your
before my
first-
diagnosis.
Not after your first haircut.
No, not my first one. No,
Oh.
I've had a few
I was like,
haircuts.
This story is taking a weird turn. I know I cut your hair a lot of times, and if you had cancer between your first haircut and your second one and recovered and didn't even tell me, that was going to be impressive. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Key Man Harder, the fastest recovery and
Yeah.
constantly falling back.
Yeah, 6
into
weeks
the-
done.
Yeah, done.
Start to finish. No, but yeah. So we've known each other for a while. Prior to bonding over our illnesses, and yeah, so we had a good chemistry and we like got along really well
Yeah.
anyway. So it's
I-
it's convenient that we both probably almost died, so that we'll have something to talk about on a podcast.
It's convenient that our life expectancies are like half.
Yeah,
About
exactly.
half normal.
Yeah,
That-
at best.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get this out there, because I need to be famous as quick as possible. I'm
Listen,
not going to be
people,
one of those people that are discovered late.
We need your money. We need your attention. We need we need the fame now. 'Cause we're not going to live that long.
Yeah,
you know?
so just give it to us
Yeah.
right now.
Yes, right now, so we can enjoy it before we die in 5 years.
Yeah, this is going to be the only podcast that just progressively goes through hosts, just as it. It's going to be the Game of Thrones of podcasts.
Sorry, ladies
Like
and
you think-
gentlemen, and those in between. Key is no longer with us. This happens to be the Illest Podcast. You can probably put two and two together. But I will be hosting the show by myself now.
I actually went after coming up with the idea of this. I did discover that there's another
After
podcast.
I came up with the idea for this.
Okay, after you came up with the idea
Thank you.
that like maybe we should do a thing, and then I decided a podcast and name and all that.
The podcast, the name, and did all the other work, but I had the idea.
Yeah, you.
The hard work.
It is there, but I did the harder work.
I know you're trying to go
That's-
somewhere with that.
I
and
saw-
I'm not gonna, nope.
Man, I just
Not gonna-
noticed the like blank line
Yeah.
of the recording of just silence there.
I saw you put up the volleyball, and I just stepped back and
You
let it
just
fall.
like, no, you just didn't need that. No, I found out there is actually another Illest podcast. They call themselves, they say they are the Illest podcast ever, and I don't think they have nearly as many chronic illnesses as we're going to feature.
I know,
Like-
rude.
Episode 1, we already have like more than 2 chronic illnesses.
Honey, I have more than 2 myself.
Yeah.
Listen, like, we could talk for the next 3 hours just about all of my problems.
And
not
that-
even get to the chronic illness.
Yeah, that was your original, like, when I said do a podcast, you're like, how about it's just me
Yeah,
talking forever about all the ways I'm
you have
sick,
anybody
and
for
you
the first
can
10
be
episodes?
there.
I can fill them for sure. Yeah, no problem. But let's talk about, let's start with your story. I want to hear, I mean, I've heard your story, but I want to pretend like I haven't heard it before so that we can do a good podcast.
Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, it was about almost 2 years ago now, July 2017.
How old are you now?
I'm 26 now.
You're 26 now. So when you were 24.
So when I was 24, right when I was at like supposedly like my prime, I thought I had like the flu or something because there was about a week of me being like 3 or 4 days of me being like really sick and bad, and like the whole like night sweats and, you know, not being able to eat and just feeling like fucking shit for like a couple weeks. And after about like over a full week of this, like I saw I was starting to get a little bit better because I had a little bit more energy, but I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to get some antibiotics, like something from the hospital. I'm going to take them and I'm going to like beat this because this is super fucking annoying.
That was like about a week after. You had been sick for about a week.
Yeah. So,
which
I also like lost 20 pounds without noticing, which I think says more about me. Like there, that I went on WebMD and I was like, here's all of my symptoms, you know, constant fatigue, constant sweats, slightly like, it feels like my lymph nodes might be a little bit swollen and all of these things. And I'm like, and it's just like, oh, you definitely have cancer.
Yeah,
these are all the things.
Can we talk about the irony of the fact that you went on WebMD and you actually did have cancer?
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
Like,
this is classic WebMD always saying you have cancer when you have cancer.
I'm a hypochondriac, and if I sneeze twice in a row and I go on WebMD, I am like writing my will and testament and calling my family.
So like, you being a hypochondriac makes sense because you have everything.
That's
you
true.
have everything but cancer together.
That's true.
Together, yeah. Together, like we basically fill out enough of it. We don't even need other guests. You're right. We should just talk about you constantly.
I'll just change my voice a little bit each week and introduce myself with a different name. We will have so much material.
But yeah, I went there. They got the blood tests, and they told me there was like a 99% chance I had cancer and a 1% chance I had some like a South American like virus. That like there, but yeah, this is a question. Ironically, I don't actually get asked often, and sometimes I wish I would because it was an intense moment. What was the moment like when the person delivered the information? You have cancer. There's a 99% chance you have cancer. So actually, that was a really like weird thing because at first the doctor was like, "Oh my God, this guy's not even sick." Because I was like, "I'm a little bit tired. Like I'm sleeping like 10 hours a night, so I'm a little bit tired, and like I'm not that hungry. Like I can eat a little bit, but I don't really finish my meals, and like." I mean, not last night, but the night before that, I had like a little bit of sweating, and I don't know, maybe there's like some, like all of my symptoms just had like giant question marks after them. Like I was the least sure person, and like this is St. Joe's, so like there was some people that were like actively ODing, and someone with like a broken leg, so I was just getting pushed. I was in the hospital for over 5 hours.
I was in the waiting room for the ER over 6.
Yeah, and like the entire time I just wanted to get a burger from Stars though. Stars doesn't sponsor us yet, but Roy, if you're listening, Roy, guy that owns Stars, hey, it's me, Key. We've met. You should give me money for just talking about Stars occasionally because they are good burgers and what the burgers in SpongeBob might be based off of. That has nothing to do with my story. I'm just really trying to get
now you have that
money.
Yeah, we're just trying to get sponsors.
But no, I was in there for all this time, and the doctor just was like kind of was not feeling because they were just like, okay, we just need you to get out because you're clearly not that sick.
You just have the flu.
And then she came back in later. And it kind of like changed where she was like, hey, so, okay, so let's talk about.
Did they tell you that in the ER room? I've always wondered. This is always something I've wondered. When you get the diagnosis of cancer, do they like send you home and like come back for an office visit?
No. They didn't let me leave, which is part of like the Star story. Is I was craving this hamburger because I was like, as soon as I'm done with here, I'm just gonna go get this hamburger, you know, and
go home and get better.
Yeah, well, I figured the prescription would take like 20 minutes for it to get ready, so I'll just get a burger, go over, and then like. They were like, okay, so we found out what it was. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's like, it's nothing. Sorry for wasting your time. And they're like, okay, actually, you should probably sit down. Yeah. So we can't say for sure, but we think you have cancer. And I was like,
I just can't believe that they would just like not make sure you have. Anyways, I have a lot of opinions on that. They didn't make sure you had someone there or support or anything.
Well, I then called people naturally
course.
after that fact. I instantly like got on the phone. Well, not instantly. There was the brief period of like, okay, what the fuck? But like,
the room spins. You don't know what's going on.
yeah, no, like it got completely different tone there. And then I was like, well, can I still go get my burger? And they're like, no, you can't leave the hospital now. You have cancer. And like, so
I know this is serious, but I'm really hungry.
So for the next
and
2
hospital
months,
food sucks.
when I was going through chemo and everything, I never stopped craving that hamburger. I never stopped craving that hamburger. So like first thing when I got like back the next morning, I went out to Stars. I got like the biggest burger they had. I got like the chili fries and all of that. And I was just like, finally.
Well, I mean, why not? Who knows how long you were going to live after that? You might as well go for it. You know?
I mean, I was a fucking like heathen. Like
these are the real issues.
It was. Well, if you want to know the real issue, it's just having cancer is boring. Like once you get past the existential dread about, oh no, I'm going to die from cancer, it actually is just really fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like I was just
you can't
like,
do anything, but
you just like watch TV. I am on level 3,950 of Candy Crush. That is how boring cancer. Yeah. I can pull out like my phone right. I am on level 3,900 of Candy Crush.
I feel like that's its own episode of chronic illness right there. Like, can we talk about what happened when you were a child that makes you want to play that much Candy Crush?
Not as a child. Like it was just a thing of like, what else are you gonna do? Like in the hospital bed, just like I'm binge watching Netflix. I have the phone with me. I physically do not have the energy to like really go around and do anything. And I'm also not allowed to leave this like 10-foot by 10-foot room. I'ma play me some Candy Crush.
Here's your new marketing campaign, Candy Crush. Do you have cancer? You have nothing else to do? Play this game.
You should start putting up their flyers like in hospitals, in hospital rooms. Get, like,
are you going to be here for a while? Try Candy Crush. Yeah.
No, like it was a really like weird thing having that almost diagnosis, and even then, like they couldn't tell me exactly what it was because St. Joe's doesn't have that, so they just like strapped me in a gurney and had me like fly
immediately. Like that night they flew you to San
Francisco? That night
I
was flown to San Francisco. They were trying to find any hospital for me, so it took them a couple like hours to find one that would take me, and then they didn't even get me on the oncology ward. They had me in the like seizure ward, the floor below it.
Wow. Because
they were like, well, at least you're in the hospital, and it's like the cancer ward, so someone's probably going to vacate the room soon.
We got you close enough. You can walk from here, right? Yeah.
And that was like, it was really trippy also that first day, like kind of like waking up and processing all of that, because it's something that when you're 24, like you don't really know how to do that.
That right there, we could talk so much about that, of just like, people say this all the time, but it really is so true every time, is that you get your diagnosis of whatever it is that's life-changing, and then it's just boom, 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 boom. Things start happening so fast. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. You know, like it's just so overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, no, I just had like a thought on it. It's like, one, there's like the amount of overwhelming it, and also like there was part of me that like when I called my work, I like apologized to them that I wouldn't be able to come in tomorrow. I'm like, hey, I know this is really short notice. I kind of have to go on like a immediate indefinite medical leave, and they were just like, they were like more concerned for me than because I wasn't like fully processing, and they're like, wait, so what's going on? Like you said, you were like a little bit sick. Yeah, I kind of have cancer. And then
you're gonna pull that one again? Okay. Cancer.
It sucks that like, you know, every time that I skipped work, I claimed it was cancer. And then and I also like the next day I agreed to pick up a shift for someone because their family was visiting and they needed someone to cover their shift. And so it was like this big thing. I could probably be back by then. and then I had to call them, and I was like, hey, so I actually can't cover your shift.
Them?
Yeah, I called
from the hospital in San Francisco. Your manager couldn't do that?
Not from the hospital at St. Joe's. Like I was taking care of her meeting. Like I called them.
Yeah, because that's important.
Yeah, I was like, hey,
Target's not short-staffed. You're like on your way to San Francisco.
I mean, who else is going to cover guest service besides literally almost anyone else.
Exactly. Who's going to deal with all those middle-aged, blonde, white women who wanted to return everything that they bought?
Part of me wanted to actually, like, I didn't go back to Target because I couldn't go back to Target after all that. Nothing wrong about Target. I loved all my coworkers there. It was a good little community, but I just couldn't go back to it. But part of me wanted to, like, when I was still bald, like, I wanted to get a wig just so, like, the next time there was someone that was bitching at me because they lost their receipt. They, like, lost their receipt and paid in cash and want the full price back, and I'd just be like, rip off my wig, like, I dealt with cancer. You think I give a fuck about your return?
Oh, my God. I think I think that it would almost be worth having cancer for the moment to just go back to your job, wait for that, older woman named Deborah who's returning the thing because she doesn't know how to use it and she wants her money back right now, and you just rip off your wig and you're like, listen, bitch, I had cancer. I don't fucking care if you can't put yourself together.
I have my, like, hospital gown under the red and khakis. Just like fucking like stripper pants khakis to like fucking...
You're like, listen, I've got the robe. I can prove it. Oh, God.
Because this is how you prove you have cancer. You have the robe. No, like, and
you wear wigs and you wear hospital gowns under your clothes.
The hospital socks, like, if we could get hospital socks to sponsor this.
That was one thing I wanted to, like, smuggle out of the hospital.
Oh, I did. Every single time I left the hospital, I have like 4 pairs of hospital socks because I just kept them. Do you need socks? Do you need some slippers for home? Just fake an illness. Go to the hospital for a couple of weeks. You'll get some really great socks. It'll cost you $5,000 for each foot, but they're worth it. They are worth it. Those hospital socks, they have fantastic traction because they don't like you falling down too much. No, but my coworker who I was talking to, like, she cut me off before I could explain my, like, full story when I was like, hey, so I know I said that I'd be able to cover your shift tomorrow. And they were like, Key, no. You said I can't reschedule this. They're coming in.
Like
shit. And I was just like, I have cancer. And they're like, oh no, Key, you're my favorite.
That just makes my
heart happy. You can do no wrong.
That makes my heart happy to think of someone being selfish and then being able to just squash them with that information.
Oh,
that is one of the only enjoyable things about having chronic illness is that when people don't know and they get all bitchy about something, you can just be like, I almost died.
You have unlimited ammunition in every social situation.
You also have a permanent excuse to leave anything and everything anytime because you're sick. I mean, you don't feel good. And they can't argue with that because you had cancer. What are they going to do? Be like, oh, did you have cancer? Yes, I did, Susan. I had cancer.
They're like, part of it's annoying just how much I see, like, cancer is, like, the go-to. Like, every different political movement, they're like, socialism is a cancer on this country. Conservatism is a cancer on this country. White supremacy is a cancer. And it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, one, I can't really be like standing up in defense of cancer in lots of these things. I can't be like, cancer's not so, like, it sucks, but it's just like a little bit weird having something that was such a big part and still is like a big part of my life and my reality and my experience is just constantly being like
compared to politics. That's
it's a fucking cliche at this point. If a writer can't decide what to do with a character to make them sick, they're just like, let's just say it's cancer. What type of cancer? I don't know. There are different types. It's the cancer where there's like tumors maybe, and they have to go through chemo and also radiation. And it's like it is kind of a little bit annoying though.
That happened. I get that a lot when I say an autoimmune disease. People are like, "Oh, what you like? You can't eat bread, or you can't." They think they compare it to like a very like
gluten. Basically, do you know that what happens when you have a compromised immune system is you just can't eat gluten, and that's the only difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's all. That's it. I just no sodas for me. My life's so hard.
Though Humboldt County, I shouldn't do anything to be like Humboldt County sucks because I don't want to put the place we're in on blast, especially since we do have a great community here that goes and supports things like Savage Henry. We're doing this podcast, and there's a lot of great stuff about this community. It's just...
I'll say it. This Humboldt County sucks.
But
I have no problem saying that.
one thing that was really hard is I was also immune compromised, so there was very few places I could eat for about, a year of my life. When I was going through the worst of it after I got my bone marrow transplant, I had to go and only eat at places that had A, health and safety ratings, and Humboldt County doesn't do letter-graded health and safety ratings, for one.
Because no one would pass.
Yeah,
That's why they don't do them.
Well, there's two places that will pass. There is the Six River Brewery in McKinleyville, I know for sure, and Adele's at the corner of the 101. They have a perfect health and safety rating. There's also like this Griffin's Cafe in Arcata. There's probably more. If I don't mention a place, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a good one. Yeah. It just, there were so few places and so many places I would go in and I would ask to see the health inspection, which I'm legally allowed to, and they just wouldn't have it, and the people that work there wouldn't know. And I you know what? There is a place I'm going to put on blast. I'm going to put Mazzotti's on blast. I'm sorry, Matt. I know that you're friends with the owner, if either of you guys are listening, but I went there on 3 different occasions. And first time I went to there, I was very understanding. I was just like, hey, so do you have this? You're supposed to. If you can get someone who can, here is my number. I will be back in a couple days. Yeah. Have this. Came back again, had the same question. It was actually the manager who was like, I think it's in an office, but I don't have access to that office, which it's not allowed to be. And then the last time my brother and his girlfriend were going and they invited me out to have dinner with them, and it was going to be a nice dinner. And I went up, I asked the waiter, hey, can I get that? He leaves, he comes back, he says he can't get it. And I was just well, enjoy your meal.
Yeah,
and I posted a little rant on Facebook, and one of my friends who's friends with the owner was like, I'll get in contact with him. And I was like, okay, tell him I'll be by the restaurant. At this point in time, they're doing renovations during that time. I see the owner. I'm like, hey, so do you have this? And he berates me for he's like, well, you were really disrespectful to my waitstaff.
God.
And I was like, I am trying to figure out if eating your
food is going to kill me.
Mediocre Italian food, maybe the best Italian food we have locally, but mediocre Italian food is going to literally kill me. So sorry if I'm not the nicest the third time I ask you about that.
Again, a great opportunity to rip off your wig and said, I have cancer.
I didn't have a wig. I just...
Well, that's your fault.
I have a...
Yeah,
you offered to get me a wig, so it was just I decided to just wear a hat.
Yeah, I did. I was a little excited about that. I was a little disappointed when you didn't want a wig because I was really excited about getting that.
I mean, I have a decently shaped skull. Everybody, that
is information. You should put that on your Tinder profile.
Yeah, Tinder profile. Yeah. My skull's good.
Nothing
else.
Job. I'm 6'1". I have a nice skull. They might take that the wrong way, but it might work in your favor.
Yeah, no, I was on Tinder for a little bit when
you had cancer.
Yeah, when I had cancer.
How did that go? I went my story. I want to hear this one.
I went on one Tinder date with someone who I happened to run into before that.
Did they have cancer too? Was that
no? But so I just put on my thing. It was something it was something a little bit pretentious. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was something about oh yeah, I'm kind of a writer, survivor, and waffle enthusiast.
Did you just slip it in between your religion and your political views?
Well, one, you could kind of tell because one of my Tinder profile pictures, I totally was in the hospital gown this.
God. You put one of your Tinder profile pictures was you in the hospital? Were you trying to get sympathy sex? Did it work, by the way?
Not on Tinder. Separately than that, little bit. I mean,
I'm impressed.
I don't know how much of it was sympathy, but probably at least 20%.
Yeah.
Probably
I don't care how I get it. I'll fucking put that on all of my dating profiles. I'm really sick.
But I had the tagline of it of just tell me your best cancer joke, and I will go buy you a milkshake. And I matched with dozens of people, and only one of them actually sent me a cancer joke.
Well, that's just Tinder. You match with 50 people and only one of them actually responds.
But I also realized I had cancer. I didn't have the fucking energy to go on dates. I went on one date and I was like, well, this is tiring.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, when you're honestly that ill, it's just you have so much time on your hands and you're trying to fill it with anything and everything. And human connection is really important. And so that you kind of just, I feel like you kind of gravitate towards that. But then when it actually happens and someone's like, yeah, cool, let's go on a date. And I'm like, I don't want to meet you. I just want you to say nice things about me and compliment my pictures on Tinder.
I just want to have the validation of having a very good ratio of people who match with me to people I match with. It's not. That's the only thing.
I need you to just make my ego feel better. I don't actually want to converse with you.
I'm just trying. I thought this was just another one of those online games, and I was in it to win it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I had a very pretentious Instagram caption when I had it, which was Scorpio by birth, Cancer by fate.
Oh, God. That sounds terrible.
It was fucking hilarious.
Was it?
Or claimed everyone around me when I was in a hospital bed. That's part of why...
Well, you had cancer. What are they going to be like? Your jokes are stupid. You might not be alive tomorrow. They don't want that to be the last thing they said to you.
I think that's why, like, being a cancer comedian kind of is easy, just because of the fact that no one's going to... I've had one heckler. In my entire time. And it was easy to shut them down with just like, well, fuck you, cancer.
Again, pull your wig off. I have cancer. Shut everybody down. Is that how you start? Like that would be a great opening to your sets when you just like, I'm a cancer comedian. Everyone's going to laugh after that. Yeah, no one is going to be like, no one's going to heckle you after that.
Well, no one like laughs when I'm like, hey, so I'm here to make you laugh at the fact I have cancer, and it's always just dead fucking quiet. Like I have to build from a really awkward place.
I feel like you could probably start better than that. Well, I guess, some people like to give themselves a challenge, so you just make it real uncomfortable right at the beginning, and then you're like, this proves I'm funny, because this was really bad to start when look where I took you,
Yeah, somewhere even worse.
Somewhere even more terrible.
But that's like the main thing with me. Like the main reason I did this is, of course, because of having cancer. And I'm sure that I'm going to talk a lot more about a lot of aspects of it in the future. But one thing that really frustrated me that I kind of want to get into before I wrap this up is the thing that kind of made me the most irrationally angry that I heard all the time is people talking about how brave I am or how strong I am, because you know how cancer survivors are always like these great, like you're such a warrior key, and like, oh my God, you're so brave. I could never go through the thing. And it's like I wasn't being like brave in the hospital bed. I wasn't like fighting or anything like that. Like the good thing about
The good thing about cancer.
The good thing about cancer. That's not exactly good, but there's an interesting thing about cancer where there's no placebo effect. Like medication, there's no way of your brain like tricking the cancer into going into remission. There's none of that, like, oh, if you think like positive thoughts, like scientific studies have been done. Lots of diseases, the placebo effect is a real thing. Like it's actually, but there's none of that.
It may not heal you, but it certainly can improve
your chances.
Yeah, totally.
Like but knowing that actually made it easier, because I was like, oh, cool, I can just give up. I can have absolutely no hope. Like it put so much of the weight off of it for me being like.
That's a real thing, though, for sure. Like that whole "you're so brave," it really puts, which is something, again, a whole other issue that we could have a whole episode about.
Yeah.
But the whole, let's put the responsibility of getting better back on your shoulders, even though it's cancer and you had no choice in this matter. You're so brave went to me, and I'm assuming this is kind of like how you felt. You're so brave sounded like, you're going to be able to get through this. You're going to be able to do this. This is, you just be happy and you'll be fine. Bye. No, see you later.
I was doing nothing. I was like binge watching that 70s show. Also, like, I was basically binge watching all of Netflix and Hulu while playing Candy Crush. Yeah. And that's how I fought my way through it. I took 2 laps around the hospital, like wearing like the mask and everything. And that was like, that was so I could go and like, because even if my immune system quits, this booty don't quit, and I need to let.
Just because I have cancer doesn't mean I don't have needs.
But like, there were so many people just saying that, and I just didn't know how to tell people like, no, I'm not. I'm freaking out. Yeah. Like I am on a bunch of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication because I'm freaking out. I have fucking cancer, and I'm not fighting through it. I have oncologists who are giving me medication, and I'm just laying there like while they go and like flush the weird like tubes in my veins with whatever poisonous chemical they claim will cure me, but mostly makes me feel sick. Other thing about cancer, everything that you think about when you think of cancer and side effects, you're thinking of chemotherapy. You're thinking of chemotherapy. Cancer does not make your hair fall out. Cancer does not make you like, well, it does make you like thinner, but it doesn't do the same kind of things. It's not what creates a super compromised immune system like I had. Almost everything that you think about when you think about the side effects of cancer and that you see, that is from chemotherapy, which is the most fucked up medication there is. I know
they're basically like slowly poisoning you, and if you survive, you may not.
Not slowly,
cancer.
not slowly. Very there was a
quickly.
Medication that there was like the person who was injecting into my veins, they were wearing like their typical gowns and gloves, as well as a smock and other bigger gloves, a mask, suit, goggles, and a face like helmet thing, like a riot face mask.
And we're gonna put this right in your butt.
And there's a thing where there was like a bunch of warnings, like if this gets on your skin, you need to immediately go to like a chemical washing like thing, because this is super dangerous. We're going to inject it through a tube that goes directly into your heart. Not just into my veins. The tube, there was like 3 feet of tube from like my arm all the way through directly into my heart, where they're pumping all of these harsh chemicals.
Like, look, after going through all this, I better not have cancer, and I better have superpowers. Like,
well, I did have one superpower from this. The chemical, the chemicals in it. There's a really fun side effect that when you're on chemo, because it targets rapidly duplicating cells. That's why your hair falls out. Other cells that duplicate rapidly are your sperm cells. So you get chemo-infused sperm. You have poisonous sperm. Like, that was one of the things, is they're like, hey, so you have cancer. 1, you can't drink for at least a year. Don't have a single drop of alcohol or else you will die. 2, you can't smoke pot. I know everyone thinks that smoking pot's just the thing you do when you have cancer, but when you inhale it, there's a fungus on lots of pot that normally your immune system will fight off. But when you're immune compromised, when you don't have an immune system, there's risk of a fungal infection in your lungs, so you can't smoke pot. I just started eating a fuck ton of edibles because I was stressed out. And
then also you couldn't have sex because you were...
Yeah, and I couldn't have sex. I couldn't drink, I couldn't smoke weed, and I couldn't fuck.
I would have been like, never mind, I don't want chemotherapy, I'll just die.
Also, like, after a couple rounds of it, when I had all these restrictions, I also wasn't allowed to eat, like, I couldn't have a burrito because burritos have rice in it, and rice, if it hasn't been actively cooked within the last 5 minutes, you can't eat. I couldn't have any sushi for that, and also the raw fish aspects. There was like all of the best, most enjoyable things, like, were just gone. Like, I went to Adele's, the place I was talking about, after that, and I was like, hey, what's the juiciest steak that you have? Like, tell me what the juiciest steak is. I want it well done. And they're like, you know that's going to make it not juicy. And I'm like, I know. Give me a bunch of steak sauce. I'm going to pretend. I'm going to pretend that this is... as good as I want it to be, as good as I went broke for the first time in my life during this. I went
broke. Financially?
Yeah, financially.
Oh, okay.
Because before that, I've always been like pretty fiscally responsible. Like, I had a okay job. I made sure to get lots of hours in. I never spent money that I couldn't afford. And then I blew through all of my inheritance, every like dollar in my bank account, just constantly going out to the best restaurants I could with everyone that I knew. I took road trips.
Okay, I see.
I took road trips like all over the place. Like, my insurance luckily was able to cover like my medical expenses, my direct ones, but everything else, I just couldn't care about money. So that was like...
Yeah, I mean, first of all, being sick is very expensive. Yes. And even if all of your medical expenses are covered, being sick is still very expensive for so many other reasons. And then 2, also when you're faced with that, which tale as old as time, but when you're faced with that reality of like, you may not be alive tomorrow, you're like, who cares if I have money? I'm going to go enjoy myself.
There was a 30-some% chance that I would not have survived at all.
Yeah.
And even if I did, there was chances of my bone marrow like transplant not working and me having chronic like graft versus host disease or me leaving remission or all these other things.
Yeah, the particular type of cancer you had is very very serious.
I suppose I should. I never brought up what type of. I have leukemia, which basically is a blood cancer. My white blood cells started having unregulated growth, so I didn't have any tumors myself. It was all blood based. I just had a bunch of white blood cells. Which caused anemia was the thing that made me go into the hospital because all of the white blood cells meant that my body wasn't producing red blood cells, which you need for a lot of other things. So my immune system, when I thought I was sick, was actually really fucking powerful. Just a little.
But it was attacking itself?
Not so much. It was just using all of the resources.
Okay.
So my body wasn't producing the type of blood that I needed to survive.
Okay.
And that I realized I was talking about cancer this whole time, and I didn't even say what type. When cancer is such a vague thing, I have a friend who never went.
Well, you kept some of the mystery, you know.
Oh yeah. I like the mystique.
Yeah.
Of,
who knows
what
kind of cancer?
Ooh.
Yeah.
And
just
also,
look for their Tinder profile. It'll be on that.
Also, who knows what type of cancer will be next time?
Yeah,
so
I know. That's
so
the thing
that's
options.
also I will always have to be thinking about the fact that I have I'm several times more likely to develop any other type of cancer.
Yeah, because once you get cancer, it can always come back.
Yeah, in whatever form. So I still
and different. So that was another thing. So just because you had leukemia, like if cancer comes back, a different kind of cancer could come back.
Yeah, I have prescription sunscreen.
Prescription sunscreen.
Yes, because
I don't know why that's funny to me.
My risk of developing skin cancer is so much higher that I'm glad that I live here in Humboldt County because I oftentimes forget to.
Because we don't have the sun here. Well.
Yeah, but when I was down in San Francisco, I had to be wearing long sleeved everything. I needed to be avoiding the sun as much as possible, wearing the mask, sunglasses, hat, and have this SPF 80, 100, some really powerful sunscreen the entire time because that's just, it's a weird fact that I don't really bring up the most because normally people just want to be oh, well, you look so healthy now, which also pissed me off. Back when I didn't have hair, people will still be you look so healthy. And I'm it's my blood.
Yeah.
It's my.
Yeah. I hate. So I hate that, the whole invisible illness. If you can't see it, then it's not real, and which is ironic because normally people always use cancer as the reference of oh, well, if you have cancer, you can totally tell, and that's not necessarily the case all the time. Also, for someone like you who was and still is a generally positive person, people think if you're happy, you're not really sick. If you're actually sick, you have to be miserable. If you're not miserable, then you're not really sick. Which,
as someone who's always happy, I should also bring up the fact that this isn't just about, the type of physical illnesses and ailments. We do want to have this podcast be about mental illness as well.
Health,
and I had suffered from depression since the age of 11. There's a really traumatic experience in my family. I'm not going to get into that. That's my own life, and that's an okay thing.
That's good material for another episode. So let's keep this going.
But when I was in the hospital, I started taking antidepressants, and I realized that there was points in my time when I did have cancer that I was happier than before, and I've been doing therapy since then. So even though I also put on all these airs as a comedian and as just a person, that's another thing that is kind of invisible, is the fact that depression and other mental illnesses are very real. And though that's not my biggest story, and that's not what I'm going to be having the most insight on, I feel like that's another thing that this will be able to go and help recognize that there is a lot. There's also equally valid to something like cancer or having some type of disease where you are immune compromised. There's a really broad spectrum, and the fact that I'm kind of proud to say stuff like the fact that I was on antidepressants up until this last week even is when I finally decided that I'm going to stop, and I don't know if that's going to be permanent.
Totally. And that's the thing, is that antidepressants, mental health medication in general should really honestly be viewed as any other medication. If you need it, there's nothing wrong with taking it for as long as you need it, or just for a short
and there's
time.
nothing wrong with not taking it.
And there's
as long as you are not a threat to yourself or others, obviously. Like that's the big caveat. That's the big fine print. But like, I feel like any kind of treatment plan, as long as you're not being harmful, everything is completely okay, and we shouldn't have the fact that someone has to take any type of psychological medication say anything about them, or the fact that they choose not to, which, I mean, I'm kind of both. Like I have been taking it for a long time, and I'm trying to experiment with not taking it to just, see how that's going to be with my life
like
going
with
forward.
any other medication, if you don't need it, and it's not benefiting you physically, then obviously you're not going to want to take it. But if you do need it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking it.
Yeah, well, I've just rambled about myself for like over a half hour.
Oh, I know. We are absolutely. This episode's going to be all about you, because if you're going to get the whole hour, then I'm going to get a whole hour. So we're going to talk about me next episode.
Well, I was like, we can
do a 2-hour episode.
We can run this a little bit long, and I can like crop out the spots where I made like the worst jokes and the complete lack of points.
Are you sure?
Yeah. We.
Because I like talking about myself.
No, you should talk about yourself. I just fell a little bit too much into that trap. I noticed a while back when I was like, I'm going to wrap this up, and then I proceeded not to wrap it up even a little bit.
Well, I mean, honestly, I've been enjoying it, and even though I've heard your story different times in different perspectives over different conversations, it's still new and fresh every time, and there's so many other things that come up, and there's just so many facets to chronic illness that, like, even having a chronic illness that I don't understand.
Yeah, and I'm also sure that in future episodes we might touch on some stuff that we don't touch on today with us, if it's relevant to to whoever the guest is, because it's going to be mostly about them, but we might have some insights.
Of course. But yeah.
Now, Aydan, if you want to, like, what's
wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Yeah, so what's your baggage?
Yeah. What do you bring to your Tinder profile? The three, like, this is. I was thinking about this because it's really hard to like narrow down, like when you talk about chronic illness, because chronic illness, autoimmune diseases, they have so many side effects that you're often like, well, I have this or that, and people are like, oh, that's not that bad, but you're like, the 15 side effects that go with it are not that great, So the main ones that are like the ones that most notable, I don't know, whatever. So about 5 years ago, more than that, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed as HIV positive, and funny enough, it was very like how you got your diagnosis is very similar to how I got mine. I thought I had like the worst type of flu you could ever have, and I was sick for like a month. Well, I was sick for longer than that, but it was really bad for a month, and I kept doing the same thing, like getting better and then getting significantly worse and then getting better. And I went to the hospital, sat there for like 6 hours, got back to the ER. I had a nurse practitioner, literally, I'm not exaggerating, come into the room, sat down, looked at me, did no tests, did nothing, looked at me and said, "You have the flu, go home and drink fluids and rest." Oh. I was back in that same ER a week later with meningitis, and I was quite literally dying. My body was, I didn't find this out till a couple years later, my body was absolutely shutting down, preparing to die. As far as my body concerned, I was dying, and it was preparing for that. Oh,
that is...
I could have died because that nurse practitioner didn't, and I get it. I am not a doctor. I can't even begin to fathom the stresses of the medical field. But I mean, come on,
audience. We are not medical professionals.
Yeah. No.
In
fact, I'm not really a professional in anything anymore.
I mean, if we ever get paid for this,
that
will be.
I hope to be a professional podcaster, but that's yet to be seen.
So anything we say, I don't know as much as my doctors do about cancer. If I say something wrong about that, or you say something wrong, don't add us.
No. Yeah. If you're doing anything with what I'm saying that's not just laughing, you're taking it way too seriously. So I was back in the hospital, and you know what the funny thing is that to test if you have the flu, it takes like 10 minutes. They put a little cotton swab in your nose, and they go back and they test it 10 minutes later. They know if you have the flu or not. And that's all she had to do to tell that I didn't have it. So I come back in there a week later again.
Maybe she just really didn't like snot, and she was like, "Oh, that's gross."
Well, no, it's that
I don't like. I know I'm a nurse, but I just don't really like boogers.
I don't like body
so let's.
Fluids. I know I went into the medical field, but this is gross. But I think honestly, what happens is, during flu season, like everybody and their mother goes into the hospital because they have, they're dying, but they just have the flu. It happens so often, and I get that. But again, that, it could be 1 in 1,000. I was literally dying,
Yeah.
And so the doctor comes back. He was very nice. This time there was an actual doctor, not a nurse practitioner. The nurse who took my temperature when I was in the waiting room, which was, by the way, 103.5 when I was in the waiting room. And went up to like over 104, which 105 you start suffering brain damage.
Yeah.
So it was bad, and it wouldn't go down. She was like, "I'm going to make sure you see a doctor this time, not just a nurse practitioner. Not that they're better or worse, but obviously, it was serious."
Shout out to my nurse practitioner, Derek Coe. You're actually really awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Thank you.
This nurse practitioner's name, or I would have certainly written a letter to St. Joe's. But he was very, very good, very professional. He came back. He said, "It's not the flu, so we're going to test for meningitis because that can kill you." And there's just nothing like that moment when you realize that there is as much of a chance for you to die as there is for you to live. That moment of they talk about it in movies. They make jokes about it, or it's on every Hallmark movie, but it's like it really is that intense. So, time slows down, and
I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me, when I had that, there was this thing where this year didn't exist. 2019 was not. I accepted that 2019 was likely a year I wouldn't reach, so my concept of time got weirdly slanted.
Changes.
Yeah, because you know that there is not going to be a moment over a year from now.
All of a sudden, you become so incredibly aware of every minute, of every hour, of every time that passes, because you literally don't know how much more of them you have. And I know that, again, sounds so cliche, but it was such a reality. And I remember thinking about how cliche it was, but realizing that it was cliche because it's real. That is exactly how you feel. And
you were just in the hospital bed. I'm such a fucking hack.
Oh my God, this is so annoying. Like my life is flashing before my eyes, so predictable. But and it was very scary. It was just terrifying because when you're just faced with your mortality like that, you're just kind of like, oh God, what the fuck? Now what? Like, you think of all the things you did do or didn't do or whatever, and my mom and my sister were there. My mom and my sister are incredibly supportive. They're really amazing, and I love them both. And so they were there the whole time. So I don't know what I would have done if I had to go through all this by myself, which is why I was so just like flabbergasted that they would deliver that information to you when you were alone. But, and the whole experience, I come into the ER and I think I just have the flu, and all of a sudden they're hooking me up to all these IVs and pumping, medicine into me to get my fever down because it won't go down. And then he's like, "You don't have the flu. You could have meningitis. You could die." People die in 48 hours from meningitis. Like, they get it, 48 hours later, done. So it's just very scary. And so they did a spinal tap. That's how you test for meningitis. Came back positive, and they didn't. When you get meningitis, you don't know right away if it's bacterial or viral. If it's bacterial, I think I'm getting this right. If it's bacterial, it's not contagious at all. But if it's viral, it's highly contagious.
So is it okay if I ask the dumbest question?
Yes, that's what I usually expect from you.
Yeah, thank you.
welcome.
What the fuck is meningitis?
Oh, okay. Thank you. What, you get to go like 45 minutes without talking what kind of cancer you have, but you have to call me on that in the first 5 minutes? Thanks. I see how this is going to be. This relationship is going to work. Meningitis is basically, honestly, the flu, but it's the flu virus that passes the barrier, that passes your normal barrier that keeps viruses and stuff out of your spinal fluid. So it's a flu virus that gets into your spinal fluid.
So the nurse practitioner was right. You just had the flu.
I just had the,
yeah, you just had the...
I guess she was right, but she just, didn't
maybe
do,
she didn't have enough
maybe
weight behind it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
maybe she should have presented it differently than you have the flu.
Yeah.
Just be like, you got the flu.
Yeah.
You got it bad.
You have cancer. Well, which kind do I have? Can you be more specific? Yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, basically it's a flu virus that gets into your spinal fluid, and then why it's so dangerous at that point is because once it's in your spine, in your spinal fluid, it can go to any part of your body.
Yeah,
and if it goes to your brain, you're dead immediately.
Yeah,
it can go to your heart, you're dead immediately. And there's so many things that can happen from it. And so because I didn't know if it was bacterial or viral, they had to isolate me. So they put me in my own room. And anybody that came in at all had to full suit up, gloves, like the feet covers, the mask, everything. They had to full suit up to come in because if it was viral, or it could be the other way around, viral. But I can't remember. But one of them is not contagious at all. The other one is highly contagious. And so that was a Sunday. I was in the hospital like that for a week. But like halfway, a couple days went by, and they assumed they figured out that I wasn't that contagious. So, but I was still in isolation, and you just they're pumping. I've got 2 IVs, one in each arm. They're pumping me full of antibiotics, and nothing's really going on. It's not getting better, and so 4 days. So that was a Sunday. On a Wednesday, my doctor comes in, and he sits down next to my bed, and he's visibly uncomfortable, it's very obvious that he's uncomfortable, and so I'm like preparing myself to get some kind of news, like when a doctor comes in and they're visibly uncomfortable, they're not going to tell you that they have a new flavor of Jell-O, they've got something bad to say, and so he says, we got your blood work back, and it turns out that you're HIV positive. And he was very nice and very respectful and very, and I, at that time especially, was very prideful, and so I didn't like showing emotion. So I was just like, okay, just very like, okay. And, in my mind, it was just like, fuck, like it was falling apart. And he goes, you took that a lot better than I expected. He goes, I didn't know what to expect. I've never had to tell someone that they have HIV. And I literally think I told the doctor, like, oh, well, you did a good job. Yeah. I was like, why am I worried about how the doctor feels about delivering this? I was legitimately.
Don't worry. I'm here for you through all of the news that you have to tell me.
Job. Yeah.
If you need to tell me I'm going to die, don't worry. I'll be here to support you through that process.
Do you want to run this through? Like, do you have other patients you need to tell are going to die?
But what was that moment of hearing that? Because I know that there's, with cancer, there's so much weight behind those words because you hear constantly about HIV, you hear about the AIDS crisis, you're raised with those being the same thing, and hearing the HIV just means it's early AIDS.
Yeah, exactly.
So how was that that process there?
It was confusing. Because I had come out as at that time I had been raised very strict religious Christian Pentecostal, very strict, and so this August of 2013 I finally came out at that time as a gay man, and this was the following March. So 6 months later, I found out I'm HIV positive. And so I did not have nearly, especially because of my upbringing, I knew what HIV was. I had very little education about it, but I didn't know nearly enough. And I realized that as soon as I heard those words, that I did not know enough about this. And so I went from thinking I was going to die from meningitis to thinking I was going to die from HIV. And I had enough information to know that, like, if it wasn't AIDS, that was better, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't know how much better, and I didn't know, like, I was like, I don't think I'm going to die from HIV, but I know I can die from HIV, and I just didn't know.
Like, no, there's so much ignorance. Like, when I was growing up, up until, like, I was a good ways through high school, I thought that HIV didn't have symptoms. That's what I thought the difference was. I thought that you had HIV and they could test for that, but, like, once the T viruses, like, really shoot off, that's when it's AIDS. Like,
that's when it gets bad.
Yeah, I didn't realize until, like, I was, almost 20 that actually HIV has some symptoms to it.
It does have.
It is an actual full disease onto itself.
It is, yeah. And so, you know, once you're HIV is the AIDS virus, but it's just not. Basically, it's not. AIDS is the most severe case of HIV. Basically, it's the same virus, but it just hasn't got to that point yet. And once it gets to the point of AIDS, it is significantly more difficult to treat. So I just, you know, as soon as the doctor walked out, of course I fell apart. You know, I just, you know, started crying and sobbed and didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, a lot of people ask me the question later on, like, oh, did you tell your parents or did you wait for a while? And it never crossed my mind to not tell my family.
Same.
You know, it never once, because for two reasons. One, they were concerned about my well-being. I had been in the hospital for 4 days with meningitis, and they didn't really know what was going on. And two, like, being raised in a very, like, controlling environment with the religion, and my father was very overbearing. I just felt like they were entitled to that information, whether I wanted them to have it or not. I had no concept of what I could keep personal. And so I just, I sent them a text. I sent, like, a group text to my mom and my sister, and I was like, they got my blood work back. I have HIV. And that was pretty much it. That's how I told them. And because
that is that's such a power move. Like,
it wasn't a power move. It was,
I like called them, and, like, I had this very that just being like, yo, HIV, bye.
In our family, we don't have, more so now, me, my mom, and my sister have, you know, especially going through all of this, it has, like, really changed how we communicate. We do communicate a lot more about sensitive subjects face to face, but back then we did not. We were very much raised, like, especially in the religious environment, like, if you can't see it and you don't talk about it, it's not real. And so thinking about talking to them face to face, I was like, oh, fuck no. Like, I'm not, like, I can't talk to them face to face about this. I have to let them know in a way that's not confrontational. And so I was like, I'm just going to text them, and then that's it. It's done. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off, you know? And, so I just, I think that's pretty much what I said was, like, I got my blood work back, I have HIV. And then they showed up later, within 20, 30 minutes, all, you know, they were there. And it was very sad and emotional, of course, you know, and they didn't know, you know, my mom and my dad both grew up through the AIDS crisis, you know?
Yeah.
They were born before that, and they both lived through that and so, you know, their ignorance about the subject was even more intense than mine, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. They just didn't know about it, and so they were even more scared. I'm fairly certain that my dad was, like, positive I was going to die. Like, he thought that I was going to die, and that's another, like, my family was like really similar to that. They were, like, holding it for me, but I found out from all people that the chef at Amiga's apparently was friends, like, with, like, knows my family because they also go there regularly, and he didn't know that I was the son of my mom with cancer. Was it the owner of Amiga's? Yeah, and he's That's funny.
I think he is.
I went to barber school right down the street from an Amiga's Burritos and went there every single day.
Yeah,
and I know the owner.
He's like,
why am I surprised? It's a small town.
He was, like, close to them, and he was like, knew them. Like, they were like properly freaking out, but, like, I I made my dad at least promise not to, because my dad has a lot of mental illness himself. So like the conversation with him, like I got on the phone and I was just like, hey, so you have to promise 2 things. Like, one, I'm going to interrupt you before you even start on a bit. You're not allowed to joke at all in this conversation, and you're not allowed to freak out and get emotional, because he...
I just think it's just funny, because as soon as you say those 2 things, you're like, oh shit, they're going to tell me they're dying. That would be my first.
But I mean, it was kind of like the only way to lead into that. But like, I knew that my dad takes a lot of things very, very like emotionally and personally, because that's just part of who he is, and he has a lot of like mental health issues, which I don't need to put him on blast, but that was also like that was the way it was for him, is just like this thing of, I know as soon as I hung up, he probably was freaking out, but he was at least, I was surprised how like respectful he was of those wishes of like, I can't have this be about you right now.
I can't freak out, and I will freak out if you freak out, so don't freak out. Yeah, absolutely. But, I totally understand that.
But yeah, no, like having your family, like, how were they like reacting when they were around you? Did you feel like they were putting on airs for you, or what was going on with that?
Well, it was so weird, because it was a clusterfuck of situations. Mental, I've since, just to give a little bit of background, I've since also been diagnosed with severe PTSD from childhood trauma and the way I was raised and stuff. And so I say that because there was so many other mental health issues that were going on with me at that time, and that I hadn't even had a chance to deal with, that just heightened everything surrounding it. And so it was weird, because I was 30 years old. I had been raised Pentecostal, strict religious Christian up until I was up until just that point. It was August of 2013. I was 29 years old. I turned 30 in November. And then by March, I had, just come out, had just finally, come into myself and realized that, that like being gay was okay, but not fully. I mean, I had 30 years of being told that it was the worst thing you could ever do. And so I was just fucked up mentally, just still didn't even have time to process that. And had lived a life where I've heard the term, that AIDS was the gay cancer, and I've heard all that.
Yeah, okay. So this is the cancer podcast. You have me with my straight cancer, and you with your gay cancer.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. Yeah, we cover all the bases, all the cancer bases.
And lupus is just the non-binary cancer, right? That's for the people who are.
That's what we should start saying, instead of like ladies, gentlemen, and those in between. Be like,
like
straight cancers, gay cancers, and those with lupus. So, it was kind of one of those, like, I come out as gay 6 months later, I get HIV, and I'm like, oh shit, this is my punishment. It's all true.
Yeah,
that was the fucking like mental fuck of that, was like, it seemed it was just this perfect storm of fuckery, that like everything that I was worried about and had been told and felt kind of like coincidentally happened.
Yeah.
So it felt very like reaffirming to the negative.
But I mean, you've definitely like have gotten like this has been. That was a while through, and like since you've gotten through this, I'm almost wondering, like, do you feel like having that near-death experience, like you've been doing a lot of stuff like as part of like the local queer community here, and a lot of stuff since this, and do you feel like some of that knowing that, knowing that there's a good chance that you would die, having that thing, like once you broke free from that, I realized I had to do comedy when I was in the hospital.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
So for you, do you think that was... I don't want this to be like, hey, what's like the upsides of getting HIV besides hosting this fucking excellent podcast?
Yes. I mean, this is what it was. It makes it all worth it. No, you know how everyone says they have like the, I saw my life flash before my eyes, or I finally realized, or whatever.
Yeah.
It was, to me, it absolutely, like, having this experience definitely changed my life, made me do things I wouldn't normally do. But it was more in the sense of like, when you take anything that's terrifying or scary, like for example, doing drag, that was terrifying for me. And then I started doing that
And fucking killed it, by the way.
We'll talk about that in another
If we had
episode.
an audience, I'll throw in some applause.
Yeah, exactly. Woo! So, when you compare getting on stage in front of a bunch of people with a shit ton of makeup and a terrible wig, or letting your family see your Facebook posts about being queer, or being gay, anything that is terrifying, in that sense, compared to thinking you're gonna die, it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh my God, I can't get on this stage. I can't wear lipstick where people will see me. Oh, I almost died last month. Who fucking cares if I'm wearing lipstick on stage?
I had the fucks chemoed out of me. I used to give many fucks, but the chemo, apparently fucks are a rapidly duplicating cell because the chemo took care of them real quick.
Real fast.
Yeah.
You compare, and that's how it was for me. It wasn't like I had this life-changing moment. It was more like, if I get scared about something, or I'm nervous about something, or I'm worried about what people are going to think of me, I compare that to fucking almost dying, to dying in a hospital bed and thinking I was going to die. I don't fucking care what you think about me. I almost died, bitch. And I didn't. So fuck you. I'm going to get on that stage, or I'm going to say whatever I want to say. It literally just changed me to the point of I don't fucking care. I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care about your petty little problems. It's probably one of the reasons why I couldn't do hair anymore. I was just listening to you complain about your mediocre latte when I was fucking dying a month ago. I don't give two shits, Deborah. I don't care what.
Okay, who is this Deborah that you have very personal beef with?
It's kind of I don't know. For me, it's a drag queen thing. It's a common joke about that for me that I've heard a lot in gay or queer people.
So any drag queens named Deborah out there, you know who's gunning for you.
It's drag queens making fun of that standard, that typical middle-aged, let me talk to your manager.
Every Chad's mom is Deborah. Yeah.
We just call them Deborah. That's who they are. And so I lost my train of thought because I got started talking about drag queens and Deborah. Sorry. So, it kind of changed to that, I don't give a fuck. And my friend really summed it up really well when I was having an anxious situation about something later on, and she just looked at me and she said, no children are gonna die. It'll be fine. And even though it's not the same thing, but that's kind of how you put, how kind of I put everything into comparison. I'm I'm not gonna die, so it's not that big of a deal. So, I'm not laying in a hospital bed dying from meningitis, so it's not that scary anymore. Yeah.
So what is the most annoying thing that you get asked when people find out that you have that you were diagnosed with HIV? What's something that people keep on either asking you or saying to you? Talking about how people keep on saying I was brave. Yeah. What's the thing that just actually gets annoying no matter how well intended it always is?
It was the most absolutely frustrating thing is that there was so much stigma, in the 80s and 90s around, because it was a death sentence. So in the effort to to counteract that stigma, they have, oh, HIV, it's, you can take a pill and you won't die from it, and you'll be fine, and you can go on and live the rest of your life, and you'll die from. Legitimately, the first doctor appointment I went to, there was a woman, one of the nurses, she said, oh, it'll be totally fine. You'll get on medication and you'll just die of something else later. And I was like, is that supposed to make me feel better?
Also being immune compromised means you're going to die from something else. That's
exactly.
the whole thing.
That's
it just makes it so that something else.
Yeah, that's what an autoimmune disease is.
Yeah, it's the just let's open the door for what's going to actually kill.
So the most annoying thing to me was, every single individual's person's experience with HIV is different. I have also other mental health and physical health issues that were, compounding that, but every single person's experience is unique. Some people do get on medication and go back to having a normal life. Some people, it changes their abilities and they become completely disabled sometimes for various reasons. It's a completely different experience for every single person. And every time I tried to talk to somebody or would explain my situation, even to medical professionals, I'd get that's weird. It's not supposed to be like that. And I'm like, I don't fucking care what it's supposed to be like. This is my experience.
Let's just kind of wrap up with that point right there, which is kind of a large point of this podcast, is no two people with any disease are going to experience it the same way.
No.
My cancer's experience is my personal cancer experience, and this podcast is less about the illness than the experiences that we have from it. So yeah, it's not going to be the same, even if it's the same root disease. Symptoms are different, and the way that we perceive them is always going to be different. I'd love to have someone who has a completely different take on leukemia come in here and be just
absolutely.
no, fuck no, I wasn't feeling that at all. And also, I was being brave and strong, and that's completely right.
Totally. Yeah. And the one thing I would say that I wanted from people that I didn't get, and I feel like this is going to be a common thread for a lot of people with chronic illness, is validation. I didn't get validation a lot of times, and it was often, best intentions. They assumed I was scared, and they assumed that I thought it was a death sentence, so they were trying to make me feel better. But all I wanted them to do was just say, yeah, you're tired all the time? Okay, that's valid. That can happen from this.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to try to make me feel better. That's not what I wanted. I wanted them to say, what you're experiencing is valid.
And to everyone out there who is suffering from any kind of illness or any kind of disability or any kind of mental illness or just, the fucked up nature of life,
yeah.
your experiences, however you choose to perceive them, so long as you're not harming yourself or others by doing so, is entirely valid and your own. And for everyone who stuck out this 0th episode of the Illest Podcast, I appreciate every single one of you. Please consider supporting Savage Henry on Patreon, or if you're a business owner, maybe email editor@savagehenrymagazine.com. Start throwing some money our way so we can do this more.
Give us money so we can keep doing this, because we're sick and we don't want to have to work. We want to do this for a living.
I don't know if you heard, but I have cancer.
There goes the wig. I have cancer.
Imagine you can see me, and this hair is actually a wig, and I just removed it.
That was the sound.
That was the sound right there. Also, I like the idea of at the end to us talking about resources with whoever the guest is. For me personally, my life was saved by an organization called BeTheMatch.com. What you do, it does cost $26. So instead of supporting us on Patreon this week,
save someone else's life.
You go and you get a cheek swab. All it is a cheek swab. You send that in, and they have your DNA on file so that if there's someone with leukemia or other similar illness who needs a bone marrow transplant, they will call you. There's no obligation to, if you get scared, follow through, but this is a chance to go and literally save someone's life. Leukemia is the primary cancer for anyone 8 years and younger is where it's most common. And when you're that young, you really have no choice besides getting this. And it was some woman in Europe. So I'm actually now 11% female by body mass.
Well, I've got you beat on that one. Okay. We don't. That's one thing I've got on you.
That's fair. That's fair. But no, it's a really great program, and it has saved so many lives. And most likely, they'll never contact you. But if they do, it's because there's someone out there that needs you to just go. They'll fly you out in in a airplane to the hospital the person will be at. Go and take they'll give you some drugs, take a blood sample, and then use that to go and do a bone marrow injection, which will make it so that I can live theoretically in remission and maybe cancer-free for the rest of my life, because of some woman in Europe who just chose to do this, and she was the only person in the world who was a genetic match. If this one person didn't, there's a very good chance I wouldn't be here right now. So I know they're not sponsoring this, but I just feel like we should go and talk about resources for people to know about. So is there anything that you want people to know about?
Yes, there's a lot of resources on that you can educate yourself on HIV and AIDS and the risk, and I will mention a lot of those in the podcast to come, because that is incredibly important to me. But since we were talking about validation, that was a really big point. There is a website called butyoudon'tlook.com. Particularly, there's an article called The Spoons Theory, and it is about a woman. It is a story told by a woman who has lupus, actually, and it is what it is like. She's telling a story to her friend of what it's actually like in the day of a life with someone who has an autoimmune disease, and it was incredibly validating for me, and I feel like it was really the beginning of the journey of me being like, not accepting my illness, but giving myself the permission to do what I needed to do to be healthy, removing that stigma, removing that pressure to do things that society wanted you to do, or that I would feel more like, being productive, or having to do this, or go to this party, or go to that. It was so incredibly validating, and to be like, yes, I am that sick. I do get tired. It's okay to feel this way, and I'm going to feel this way so that I can get better. So that was a really great for the mental health aspect of my illness.
What was the name of that website again?
The website is butyoudon'tlook.com, and the specific article, there's a lot of different articles about illness, invisible illness, but the specific article, which I will be referring to a lot, I know, is called The Spoons Theory. Look it up. If you have a chronic illness, it will be incredibly validating. If you don't have a chronic illness, it will, and look it up anyway, because we all know somebody with a chronic illness or chronic pain, and it will help you to understand what their life is actually like. And it's a big deal.
All right. Thank you, guys. This has been episode 1 of the Illest Podcast here at Savage Henry. Thank you, guys, and good night.
Good night.
Bye.